McGraw-Hill Professional presents Organizing for Success, Second Edition, written by Kenneth Zeigler, narrated by John Haag. Introduction. The fourth dimension of time management: how to increase your productivity and work more effectively with others. Are you tired of reading the same old ideas, only they have been paraphrased and changed slightly so they seem new? Even though this topic has changed radically over the past 4 to 5 years, many writers are still putting a spin on old ideas, rather than looking for new ideas and strategies to more effectively handle a significantly greater workload the average person faces every day. Back in 1996, the Hertz car rental company began to ask why they were getting so many complaints from their managers that they were stressed out. They noticed an increase in manager turnover and employee dissatisfaction, but they couldn't understand it, since every manager at Hertz had a Franklin day planner. After all, back in those days, you weren't anyone unless you had a Franklin day planner. In fact, the bigger the day planner, the more organized you must be, people deduced. I offered to observe their managers in the field and tell them what the problem was and propose some potential solutions. After 6 months, I made my report to Hertz and made my recommendations. Here is that summation. 1. The Franklin Day Planner was the wrong planning tool for their field managers. Since they were rarely at their desk, the day planner was too large and cumbersome for them to take with them wherever they went. As a result, they hardly used it. 2. I recommended that they use a very small spiral notepad or a single sheet of paper they could put in their back pocket that was more portable and thus more useful. The key is that they needed a very portable tool or it wouldn't be very useful. When they returned to their desk eventually, they could then transfer their notes and to-dos onto their calendar. 3. Hertz managers couldn't even remember what they had done 2 days before when I asked them. This is because they rarely wrote anything down and did everything the second it was requested. 4. Their daily plan was unrealistic because they tried to make a typical day fit their plan. I recommended that they clearly understand what a typical day really looked like and develop a plan that took advantage of what a typical day was really like. 5. Since their plan wasn't realistic, it rarely worked, so they had to work longer hours just to get the work that had to be done daily done by the end of the day. 6. Delegation was the #1 problem I observed. Since managers didn't really understand why and how to effectively delegate, it rarely worked. So they broke down the confidence of the person they delegated to, and they ended up having to still do the task, project, or report. They lost any chance to leverage their time and abilities. 7. Since they did almost everything themselves, they ended up working more hours. They also had very little mental separation between work and home, so even when they weren't at work, they still thought about work all the time. Thus, it was like they never left work when they came in the following day. This added to the burnout. That is why I recommend putting mental closure on every day. Even though corporate America has significantly downsized, and we are doing the work that 3 to 4 individuals used to do, we are still using the same skill set we had years ago when the workload was much less. Because of this phenomenon, we are actually becoming less efficient, and the result is longer hours at work each day. The #3 reason for procrastination is being overwhelmed. As a person becomes more overwhelmed, they actually slow down. From years of research, one thing is certain. Productivity has actually been decreasing over the past 4 to 5 years, even though the government's measurement of productivity is telling us that the American worker has actually never been more productive. Is it that they are actually more productive, or that they are working more hours at the same pay? I propose the latter is true. The purpose of this book is to question: why are you doing what you are doing, when you are doing it? With clear thought, do you have a reason for choosing each task or activity that you pick all day long? Or are you a creature of habit? Are you just trying to keep your head above water? Or do you have a logical reason for every activity you choose to work on throughout the day? The faster you go throughout the day, the less logical reasoning you will use, and the less control you will experience. My definition of time management is that there is a time and a place for everything. Is your reasoning or thought process that logical? This book will show you how to develop this logical thought process, which in turn will actually help you focus on and accomplish more of what matters most each day. The history of this book. Since I don't believe the problem is the time system people use, for example, Outlook, Lotus Notes, or a paper calendar, this book will focus on giving you tips, tools, ideas, and strategies that you can apply to see immediate, measurable improvement, both at work and at home. You will notice that I'm not trying to sell you an expensive day planner or any kind of electronic gadget. There are plenty of those already, and they can be useful tools. Instead, this book can help you use whatever system you currently use more effectively. I do recommend an electronic instead of paper calendar because of the need to coordinate work and schedules. Since traditional to-do lists, whether paper or the task function electronically, and day planners haven't really worked in a long time, I recommend using a master list. Back in 1996, I was the first to recommend a different approach other than Franklin's system. Now today, this concept is becoming increasingly popular as more and more authors now recommend the same approach. Since people have very little control over a typical chaotic day, traditional prioritization and structured systems don't work well. As a result, there has been a dramatic increase in the number of classroom participants who come to work and wing it, meaning they don't have a plan at all. This is why I will show you a more flexible way to organize that can change as your day or week does. Finally, there is very little new material on productivity. Most of it is a rehash of old, tired ideas that don't apply in this new day and age. The problem is that people are doing the work of 3 to 4 workers, yet they are approaching each day with the same mindset and organizational approach as they did when the work was less and the pace much slower. I will offer you a new approach that will 1. Cut down on the number of hours you spend at work. 2. Improve the quality of your work. 3. Improve the number of tasks, projects, activities you complete every day. 4. Reduce the number of times you have to do something before you achieve your desired objective. 5. Increase the quality of your personal life. 6. Reduce your stress. 7. Put you back in control of your day and week. The key to building a more productive day, week, is to be willing to examine everything. That is, each event or activity that impacts your day, and ask, was this the best use of my time at this moment? Would this activity have taken less time to complete if it was moved to a different day and/or time slot? Change is typically very uncomfortable. Are you desperate enough, discouraged enough, or stressed out enough to look for new ways to approach your day and week that will make you more productive and your life easier and more rewarding? The key to getting organized for success is to determine and analyze when you're working on certain activities and your reasoning for these actions. In other words, use clear thought, step back from the trenches of everyday life, and analyze your activities. This book will have you analyze why you're doing it, what you're doing, when you're doing it. The best way to start. I recommend that you read the book from the beginning. The first chapter is new to the book. I recommend that you keep track of your time for a week before you read the rest of this book. In the book, you will find the website address, which contains the timekeeping journal, expressly for this purpose. I'm constantly amazed that this is one of the few courses to recommend this. Back in 1996, I began recommending the timekeeping journal because when I asked Hertz employees what they had done 2 days before, more than 90% couldn't specifically recall. Don't you need to know where you're starting from in order to know where you want to go? Download the time journal and print it out. To get the most benefit from these lessons, begin by keeping a journal of how you spend your time for 1 week. I recommend keeping track of your work and personal life. It comes with instructions. Basically, you fill out the left side of each page at the end of your day with what you plan to do tomorrow when you return. Now go home. Be sure that you keep track of both your work and personal time. You may wonder, why keep track of my personal time? I believe a personal life is all about quality, not necessarily about quantity. Does what you're doing after work reinforce your personal mission statement? Sometimes a closer look may raise questions and lead to change. When you return to work the next day, begin writing down what actually happens in each time block on the right side of the page. Now you really know what a typical day is like, and you are ready to begin reading this book. Put your time journal to the side for the time being. Later you will take it out again, and I will show you how to find up to 2 more hours a day. You may be surprised how much time you find. Every principle, suggestion, and tip in this book will take on more meaning and immediacy if you have completed the timekeeping journal in advance of studying this book. I feel so strongly about this that it is a requirement for each student who takes my course in person. Why typical approaches don't work. I'm shocked at how many time management courses talk about the ability to change time and reality. Instead, I say, embrace reality and see what you can do to take advantage of it. This book was written with a typical chaotic day in mind, not some day that doesn't really exist. When you keep track of your time for a week, you will see patterns in activities, tasks, interruptions, and unplanned events. Once you see those patterns, use the strategies discussed in this book to handle them more effectively. A major question should be, how do I want to organize my day now that I can see reality? You'll be amazed at the results. In addition, you must realize that there are 2 aspects to saving time and becoming more productive. 1. Improving your time management skills. 2. Training others so their time management skills don't kill you. This is another concept that you will probably not see or hear elsewhere. Others try to make you believe that if only your skills were better, everything would be fine. That would be great, but that's not the truth. Time management is also a team subject. That is why the 4th dimension of time management is a team concept. We spend most of our days killing each other with interruptions, poorly written, vague emails without a cooperative tone, immediate requests that aren't really needed immediately, poor response time to each other's requests, poorly organized communication, requests, and answers that need to be clarified. shallow relationship building that is closer to procrastination than really building stronger working relationships. If we could have some ground rules for engagement and working more effectively with each other, we could get much more done each day. You will see that many of the tips, ideas, and suggestions are directed toward training others to be more efficient when dealing with you. Remember, if you don't respect your time, who will? How to use this book. This book is for all people who would like to become more efficient, get more done in less time, and have balance in their life. This book is written as a self-study. All the answers are contained in this book. The answers are often different for each person. Take the ones you like, make positive changes, and discard the rest. Use the time management action plan in the back of the book to write down the tips, ideas, or strategies that you're going to implement immediately after you complete this book. This activity will strengthen and reinforce your commitment to changing and improving your life, both at work and at home. Lights, camera, action. The key is action. There are more than 300 tips, ideas, and strategies. Pick the ideas and strategies that apply to you. Take action and make them work. Take 2 or 3 ideas or strategies at a time and work on them until they become habits. Then move on to 2 or 3 more. Don't try to completely retool yourself immediately. Most of the time, you just need to tweak your current skills, habits, and way you work each day. It can be easy to get discouraged. There is no perfection. For example, I have this conversation all the time a few weeks after a class. The student asks me, "What did you do to me?" To which I respond, "What do you mean?" The student then explains, "Well, after the class, I tried what you said and it worked. Then the next day I went back to the old me, then the new me. Now I don't know who's going to show up tomorrow." Remember, it can take up to 30 days to reset a habit, so be patient. It will get better if you keep trying. As you will see, the ringmaster is very patient and willing to take a long-term perspective. Any authors or trainers who tell you that their suggestions will work all the time are foolish. But consider this. If this book could make 3 out of 5 days better, that's 60%, wouldn't you be happy? I am. Chapter 1. Lost, but making excellent time. The key is to figure out what you want to improve by figuring out what's going wrong. The airline pilot announced over the intercom, "I've got good news and bad news. The good news is that we're making excellent time. The bad news is I have no idea where we are. I think we're lost." From Lost but Making Excellent Time by Dr. Jody Seymour. The reasoning for keeping track of your time. How do you know where you want to get to unless you know where you are starting from? My definition of stress is the uncomfortable difference between the way things are and the way you'd like them to be. You will develop a far more effective action plan if you accurately know where and on what you are spending your time each day. Sometimes we confuse activity with productivity. As you will see, they can often be quite different. How many times have you gotten to the end of the day, felt exhausted, but when you looked at your to-do list, realized everything you meant to accomplish that day was still on your list? Have you ever wondered, why can't I ever seem to get my own work done? We are moving so fast all day long, oftentimes just trying to make it until the end of the day. Maybe if I slowed down and stepped back, I could see what was really happening and look for some possible solutions. Think of it like you have a whiteboard in front of you. First, write down everything you need to get done. Throw in interruptions, then unplanned events. If you could see it all clearly, how would you organize it more effectively so you could fit it all into, say, a 9-hour day? The Timekeeping Journal and this book will help you do that. Most people know they are being interrupted frequently, but they don't accurately know how often and by whom. When I ask people who have kept the Timekeeping Journal what the biggest realization they had when they reflected on what they saw in the journal after they finished, the majority said they had no idea they had as many interruptions as they saw in their timekeeping journals. In many instances, they noticed that 80% of their interruptions were coming from 20% of the people they interacted with. It was a far better defined group than they imagined. They could also see a pattern in the form the interruptions were taking. For example, email, phone, and face-to-face. The strategies, ideas, and tips you will read in this book will definitely make more sense if you keep track of your time for a week before you continue to read this book. I know you may be overwhelmed and feel a little desperate, but if such feelings have gone on this long, what's another week? Let's get started by downloading the Timekeeping Journal. If you agree with my assessment and want to save up to 2 hours or more a day, go to http://www.kztraining.com/timekeepingjournal/. Download the Timekeeping Journal. There is no charge. There are enough sheets for you to keep track of 5 days. Print out the journal and put it on a clipboard. I recommend keeping track of all 5 days so you can see different patterns on different days. Also, 5 days is a better measurement of productivity than a single day. On the whole, 5 days of keeping track of your time should provide you with a very accurate picture for you to work with. How to keep the journal for best results. At the end of day 1, take out your journal. Fill in the appropriate time slots with the activities or tasks you plan to work on for tomorrow. Try to include as much detail as possible. Try to go slowly and put some thought into it. Now go home. Take your time journal with you if you are going to also assess the quality of your personal life. If not, leave it at work until tomorrow when you come back to work. When you come to work the next day, take out the journal again as soon as you sit down. Begin to fill in the time slots on the right side of each page with what actually happened in each time slot. Try to be as accurate as possible. Take your clipboard with you wherever you go. Fill in things as they occur. Don't let it slip and then try to remember what happened all day long, only at the end of the day. It won't be very accurate. At the end of the day, on the last page of that particular day, add up how many tasks you started and how many you completed. Pay attention to the priority of the ones you did and didn't complete. Now repeat the same activity as you did at the end of the previous day. Turning to day 2, fill in your plan for tomorrow. Take the time journal with you and continue to keep track of your personal life that evening. Try not to omit any details. On days 3 through 5, continue the same procedure until you complete all 5 different days: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Every day can be very different. When you complete all 5 days, put the journal away in a place you will remember. We will look at it again in greater detail once you've finished the first half of the book. At that point, you will have the skill set necessary to improve what you see in your time journal. The tips, tools, ideas, and strategies will definitely make more sense. You will then identify actions you can take that will save you up to 2 more hours a day. The results will be immediate. Now we are ready to begin the journey of self-discovery. Once you become the ringmaster, your day will begin to change. Let's look at some ways to take more control of each day, week, and your destiny. Chapter 2. Taking control of your day, becoming the ringmaster instead of the beast. True prosperity is the result of well-placed confidence in ourselves and our fellow man. Benjamin Burt. People have never been so reactive as they are today. Everything is instantaneous. We have more instantaneous contact with everyone we deal with, peers, friends, boss, family, clients, or customers. Yet the average person doesn't think he gets anything more done than he did 5 years ago. In my 13 years of research, I can't find a strong correlation between instantaneous and being more productive. In fact, any gains in productivity that a cell phone and/or BlackBerry provide are often offset by human nature. Human nature is last in, first out. Even if we are doing something more important, we will stop and respond to the new stimulus. This sets up jumping from task to task all day long. Have you ever experienced this? Felt like you were extremely busy all day long? When you got to the end of the day, you were exhausted? Looked on your list and discovered you still had the majority of your important work to complete? Went home feeling a little less than fulfilled? If you have experienced these feelings recently, or seem to feel them daily, this chapter is for you. Let's look at some ways to take back control of your day and week, so when you go home daily, you have a feeling of true accomplishment. You have choices. I used to complain about my peers, boss, and things that seemed to go wrong daily or weekly. I then realized that nothing was improving. I was still staying late every night, and on top of that, I was getting passed over by my peers for promotions. One day I realized I had to become more proactive. I thought to myself, nothing is going to improve unless I do something about it. I realized that I had choices. Instead of just surviving using short-term solutions, I needed to come up with long-term solutions that made common problems permanently disappear. An example. My boss used to come to me, it seemed like every day, and give me a project at the end of the day. As a result, I would have to stay late. I thought, what could I do about it? So I decided to stop by his office every day around 1 p.m. to see if he had a project or task for me to complete. One day, a miracle happened. He came to my office around 1 o'clock. He said, "Before you interrupt me again, I thought I'd bring this project to you." I told him, "You don't know what this means to me." He looked at me rather strangely. He didn't realize that I had reverse-trained him. In addition, I had to ask myself if I was really showing others that I truly valued my own time by the way I was handling interruptions, new requests, deadlines, and saying yes to everyone the second they asked me for anything. I finally figured out why, at the end of each day, the work I still had left on my list was mine. Finally, the ringmaster has come to realize that her own actions were causing her to actually feel less control each day. These bad habits were 1. Coming to work each day without a realistic plan, winging it. 2. Starting every day with 30 to 45 minutes of chit-chat with coworkers. This included getting a caffeinated beverage of some sort. 3. Opening email and trying to respond to every email in my inbox, regardless of priority. 4. Leaving my email notification on, so every time I received a new message, it interrupted my thought process or what I was working on at the time. 5. Working on 2 to 4 tasks or activities at the same time until I felt like I had ADD, attention deficit disorder. I couldn't bring more than 25% of my focus and concentration on any one task, activity, or project. 6. Jump.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?